Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Fire Emblem 3 Houses Only Love Can Hurt Like This Part 1 in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 56, Battle of the Eagle and Lion. Dimitri didn't hesitate to order his house straight for the Black Eagles. Edelgard immediately started charging at the Blue Lions. It was like they forgot the Golden Deer were even part of the fight. Claude watched, unsure of what to think. What the, okay. Looks like Edelgard forgot about us. He pointed towards the stronghold in the center. Make for the stronghold. While they're distracted, we can capture it. The Golden Deer house started moving forwards. Ash was limping, but he managed to take someone out on the Black Eagle's side. He was so proud of himself. Mercedes was walking in front of Ash, making sure nobody was able to get to him. Whoa, they're playing really offensive, Ingrid said with a small frown. But nothing we can't handle. She tightened her grip on her training lance and started to make her way towards Bernadetta. Bernadetta wasn't even helping at all. She was screaming and sprinting in every direction. Dimitri wasn't playing it safe. He cut through all the soldiers on the battlefield, fighting his way through just to get to Edelgard. He left the rest of his house behind. Hubert grabbed Bernadetta by the back collar of her shirt to get her to stop running. Stick to the plan, he scolded her. Do you want to emerge victorious? You are not helping whatsoever. He let her go, then ran off somewhere. Bernadetta bit Hubert. Get away from me. She scrambled away from him and crashed right into Leonie. Leonie had a lance, and she whacked Bernadetta as hard as she could with it. You're a sitting duck, she exclaimed. Bernadetta screamed, Stop, I am already out. She ran over to the area where everyone sits when they get out. Lawrence was fighting his way toward the center, sticking to Claude's side. He pointed. That looks like an easy opportunity, if I have ever seen one. He started running off on his own to get to the center. Lawrence, stop. Ugh. Hilda, go with him, Claude ordered. Hilda sighed. Fianni. Lawrence, wait up. She followed him. Lawrence made it up to the center. Aha! Lawrence Hellman Glauceater takes the vantage point. He stood heroically in the center, but suddenly got blasted with magic in the back, and it caused him to fly forward and hit his face on the deck. Oof! Hubert climbed over the side and started charging up more magic, and Casper jumped over as well and started charging. Look out! Marianne suddenly exclaimed from behind Hilda, sending a weak ball of Seraphim at Hubert. Since it was a last-minute decision, it wasn't very strong. The Seraphim hit Hubert, but he wasn't even affected by it. He turned his attention to Marianne and tried to hit her with miasma. Marianne got hit. She went out to sit with Bernadetta and everyone else who was out already. Casper was yelling at the top of his lungs, charging at Hilda. He was about to swing his training axe at her with all his might. But when he got to her, his shout died down and he ended up just giving her a light tap on the shoulder with his axe. Hee, hi. He said, all embarrassed. Hilda giggled. Hi, Casper. She smiled, then leaned in and whispered, I won't get you out if you don't get me out. Casper gave her a cheesy smile. Okay, truce. I know I said I wasn't going easy on you, but, I'm gonna go easy on you, okay? He gave her a little thumbs up, then immediately started running at Claude, announcing that he was coming. After Claude, you're going down. He jumped, and when he was on his way down he tried to hit him. Claude looked up. What the dash? He somersaulted to the side, then aimed his bow at Casper. This centerpiece is ours. Casper exclaimed, trying to stay at close range so that Claude couldn't get a good shot at him. We kinda saw you guys teaming up with the Blue Lions. We're all pretty pumped. Think of how cool it would be to defeat two houses in a 2-against-1 fight, huh? He spun around and swung at Claude again. Yeah, well, that's not gonna happen. Claude tried smacking Casper's axe with his bow. Casper swung at Claude's bow at the same time and tried to break it with his axe, but Raphael came out of nowhere and grabbed Casper by the arm, whipping him effortlessly away from Claude. Raphael. Thank you. Claude exclaimed, aiming an arrow at Casper and letting it fly. Casper matrixed the arrow. However, he was too focused on how cool he felt and Raphael caught him, then threw him again. He was definitely out after that. Claude high-fived Raphael. But then Ignatz got blasted with magic from Dorothea and was out as well. Dmitri was still trying to get to Edelgard, but Ferdinand was giving him a lot of trouble as he tried to get through. Your Highness! Duck! Didu shouted from behind Dmitri. Dmitri never questioned Didu, he hit the deck. Didu swung his axe down hard at Ferdinand, making sure he wouldn't hit Dmitri. Ferdinand got hit so hard that he flew off his horse and landed in a big mud puddle. He started coughing after he got up, spitting out grass chunks. Oh, this certainly was not how I expected this to go. He frowned. Dmitri turned around for a split second. Thanks, Didu. He started advancing again, trying to get to Edelgard again. Didu nodded. I am with you. He hurried along behind Dmitri. Sylvain wasn't in the fray because of his injuries, so he stayed along the outskirts. Ash came over to him with a few scrapes, so he quickly pulled out a first aid kit and started wrapping his arm. Annette was on the front lines fighting as hard as she could. Constance was hanging back cause she didn't think she'd be able to do anything. Ash noticed that Constance wasn't fighting and started limping over. We need your spells, Constance. Constance slowly looked at him. Me? No. I will be useless to us. Ash gently said, we all love you, Constance. We need your strength, as much as you don't think we do. We have to break through their forces and catch up with Dmitri. You're the only part missing from our offense. Constance sighed, turning and looking at the people nearest to her. Dmitri had made it to Edelgard and started fighting with her, completely taking her away from what she was just doing. He tired himself out from running up to her, but was still able to fight with vigor. Felix was doing horribly. The Blue Lions weren't holding up so well. Yuri was fighting with a soldier from the Black Eagles near Felix, noticing that he wasn't doing well. Hey, he said. You're not your usual self. He called out to him. We could really use some of that aggression of yours. Felix staggered backwards. I no longer have anything to fight for. He grit his teeth. I see no point. He cut down a Black Eagles member though. Yuri frowned. Oh come on. Your house needs you. The Blue Lions are a mess right now, at least be the one to help pull everyone together. Fight like we all know you can, yeah. Just as Yuri said that, Petra charged at Yuri. Felix swooped in, standing in front of Yuri and blocking the blow with his sword. Stop giving me instructions. He said, his voice sounding strained. I don't need to take orders from you. I listen to the boar, and that's it, he said. Although he didn't let Yuri get hit. He respected him a lot from their short talk in the infirmary with Sylvian. Petra pushed hard against Felix, trying to topple him. Yuri didn't have much time to react, but was glad Felix stepped in to save him. See? This is what we need from you. Fight for that future you want. You're not going to get there if you just mope around, that's for sure. He took his chance to defeat the soldier he was fighting when Felix saved him, then tried to help Felix out in return, swiping at Petra's legs. Petra jumped over the blade and immediately elbowed Felix in the nose. Felix held his face, groaning in pain, giving her an opening to jab at him. Felix was out. Petra took a deep breath, smirking at Yuri. I will not be going down easily. Yuri sighed when Felix got out, knowing that Petra was going to be difficult to take out on his own. I know that very well. Come at me with all you got. He held his ground. Petra wasted no time. She charged at Yuri, but spun around at the last second and took out Happy, who was attempting to sneak up behind her. Petra was on a roll. Yuri tried to hit Petra, but missed when she turned to get Happy. Balthus was out already, cheering on Yuri. Petra cheered, I have victory. You are being my next victim. She swiped at Yuri, but then noticed Ash and Sylvain hanging towards the back. She left Yuri and started charging at them. Ash gasped. Sylvian, look out! He exclaimed, grabbing him by the arm and trying to pull him away. They weren't gonna make it in time, so Ash jumped in front of him and held his arms like an X to try and be tough and take a hit for him. Petra swung down hard at Ash, not letting up. He was immediately out. Linhard had been cut down by Shezi, and Byleth was closing in on Dorothea. Dmitri and Edelgard were still fighting, and it actually looked like she was getting the best of him. Dmitri didn't know it, but Hubert rose from behind a wall behind him and was charging up dark magic. Dido stood with his back facing Dmitri. He stared at Hubert, making sure he was between the two of them. The magic that Hubert charged up went straight for Dido. Hubert slowly started backing up, trying to lure Dido away from Dmitri. Dmitri landed a hit on Edelgard, but she counter-attacked him fiercely, knocking him into a pillar. He groaned, then stood up, not wanting to be out. He wiped off some blood from his lip, then knocked the weapon out of her hand and threw his own to the side. He shoved her harshly to the ground, then knelt down to sit on her stomach and hold her there. He was on the ground on top of her, hitting her in the face repeatedly and pulling her up by her shirt and pushing her down again, smacking her head against the hard ground. Dido slashed his axe through Hubert's magic, cutting it in half. He stopped paying attention to Hubert when he noticed what was going on with Dmitri and Edelgard. He ran over Dmitri and yanked him off of Edelgard. "Stop! Stop, you've already won. That's enough." He pulled him off and held him by the shoulders. "What are you doing, Your Highness?" He felt alarmed to see Dmitri acting this way to a classmate. Edelgard sat up, angrily. She sniffled and wiped the blood off of her nose. When Dido pulled Dmitri off, he sort of just sat there for a while before snapping out of it. He turned his head to Dido, then shook his head. "You didn't hear what she said to me before the battle," he kept taking deep breaths. Hubert immediately ran over to Edelgard and started helping her get to the outstation. "Explain everything to me after the battle," Dido said. "Petra, Hubert, and Dorothea are the only Black Eagles remaining. Let us finish this." "Right," Dmitri said. "But don't forget. Once we're through with taking out the Black Eagles, we still have to deal with the Golden Deer." Mercedes got hit by Dorothea. She was out. Annette was at the front lines, and she pointed towards Hubert. "Hubert is occupied. Constance. You can reach him." Constance sighed deeply, expecting her magic to do absolutely nothing, and sent Seraphim at Hubert. Dmitri went to fight against Hubert. Constance's magic distracted him, allowing Dmitri to land a direct hit, so Hubert was out. Byleth took out Dorothea. Now, Petra was the last one standing from the Black Eagle house. Sylvain was left wide open after Ash had gotten out, and he was backing up. He held his lance out to try and keep Petra at a distance, hoping that it would help him land a hit. He didn't want to strain himself, so he just did a little fake-out jab to try and deter her. Petra wasn't even fazed by the fake jab, and attempted to butt her sword into his stomach. Sylvain didn't really have any options, so he tried to back up just in time, but Yuri jumped in front of him, getting jabbed in the stomach instead. That gave Sylvain the chance to escape. Sylvain hurried away, and Yuri went to go sit out. Just before anything could happen to Sylvain, Petra was blasted by Annette's fire magic. The Black Eagles were completely out. Dmitri looked over at Claude, then said to Dido, "Now that Petra has been taken care of, we have to make sure we target Claude. The Golden Deer still have so many members still standing. What are we down to?" He scanned the battlefield. "Our numbers are low. Hopefully we can withstand whatever scheme Claude had in store for us." Dido nodded. "Let us make our way over to Claude." Dmitri tried to make it to Claude, but Raphael stood in the way. "There's no way I'm letting either of you near Claude," Raphael bellowed. He went to punch Dido. Dido grabbed Raphael's wrist just inches from his own face. Raphael was stunned that Dido was strong enough to catch his punch. "Whoa. Wow. Dido, you're pretty strong." "Of course I knew that, but I've never fought against you before. You're so tough. You know that." Dido tightened his grip on Raphael's wrist even harder and attempted to throw him to the ground. Raphael fell, but it wasn't enough to knock him out of the competition. Dmitri pointed at Claude. "So, it's just the two of us left now. May the best man win," he challenged. Leonie got offended. "Excuse me? There are women in this fight too. Like me." She threw a javelin at Dmitri, but he knew it was coming so he dodged. "I didn't mean it that way." Dmitri defended himself. Claude pointed at Dmitri. All units advance on the prince, he demanded. All of the golden deer besides Lysithea began charging Dmitri. Lysithea was nowhere to be found. What? An all-out attack on me? Well, I say bring it on, give me all you've got. Dmitri called just before he put up his guard. Raphael scrambled to his feet and ran for Dmitri, following Claude's orders to swarm him. Shezi drew her sword, following close behind Raphael. Leonie retrieved her javelin, then advanced on Dmitri. He was surrounded, not knowing how to approach the fight. He swung at Raphael first, but it left him open, and Leonie pushed him off balance. Dida was so scared for Dmitri. He ran in to defend him, but was shot in the face with an arrow by Claude. It hurt his eye, and he had to step out. Once Dida had to leave, Annette ran over to help defend Dmitri, along with Constance. Byleth cut down Constance fairly quickly though. Didu. Dmitri watched that happen, then whipped to face Claude. You hit him in the face, that could have resulted in a permanent injury. He frowned. Sylvain was creeping up behind Claude from behind, and once he was only a few feet away, he lunged out to tackle him. Claude threw his hands up in the air, explaining himself. I knew I wouldn't hit him straight in the eye. He's a big guy. He'll be fine. When Sylvain pounced on him, Claude fell forwards. Byleth ran at Annette and eliminated her. Sylvain tried his best to keep Claude down, wanting to prevent him from shooting any more arrows. Dmitri, look out. Dmitri just barely dodged a blow from Raphael, then swept him off his feet, making him fall hard on his butt. Raphael had to be out from that. Leonie looked at Claude. Want me to help you, or fight the prince? Get off me. Claude sneered, wriggling underneath Sylvain. Help me, Leonie. He shouted. Byleth and Shezi began charging at Dmitri. But where was Lysithea? Leonie stopped fighting Dmitri and made it to Claude, and hit Sylvain with her lance. That's for tackling my house leader. She hit him again, harder. And that was for not treating me like a woman. Ow. Excuse me. Sylvain let go of Claude, obviously out. Sorry for mistaking you for a guy. We're past that. He left. Dmitri took the chance to fight against Byleth and Shezi. It was 4 against 1 now. He tried to hit her on the arm. Ruth got hit on the arm and stumbled backwards, wincing slightly. She went to sit out. Shezi took the professor's place, jabbing swiftly at Dmitri. Claude scrambled to his feet and shot an arrow at Dmitri. At the same exact moment, Lysithea leaped out from behind the cover of a bush and shot dark magic at Dmitri. Dmitri was desperately trying to handle everything all at once. He leapt at Shezi and tried to hit her as he ran from Claude's arrow, but Lysithea's dark magic was too much for him. He got hit with it and dropped his weapon, rolling across the ground from the impact. He got a fair amount of scrapes and bruises from the blow. Even though he took a hard hit, he refused to stay down even though he really should have been out. Claude scooped Dmitri's weapon up. It's over, Dmitri. He snapped the lance over his knee. Sorry it had to end this way. Dmitri tried to stand, but he doubled over and caught himself, letting out a cry because he twisted his knee when he fell. He groaned. Well fought. I expected some sort of trick from your end. I just didn't look far enough up your sleeve, did I? Claude smiled, walking over and extending a hand down towards him. You did well, my friend. Hey, I might even consider inviting you to the victory feast, he teased. Thank you. Dmitri accepted Claude's help, gripping his hand and getting on his feet. He tried to take a step, but his leg gave way a little and he stumbled. Oh, no. I hardly deserve that. Even if you are joking, your house came out on top. Enjoy your celebration. You earned it. Claude slung his friend's arm over his shoulders. Come on, let's get you some medical attention for that knee. He walked with him, heading back towards the group led by Rhea and Seath. Dmitri gladly accepted Claude's assistance, then started limping back with him. Lysithea and the others trailed close behind. Seath announced the Golden Deer House as the winner of this year's competition. Chapter 57, Golden Deer Celebration. Ash was making sure everyone was okay, and he was congratulating everyone on a good fight, even though his house didn't win. He even went to the other houses and was telling them what a good job they did. Edelgard took the Black Eagles over to the side and lectured her house before allowing them to return to the monastery. Yuri and Sylvain sort of hung back, talking out of earshot from the rest of the group. Lawrence felt humiliated and wouldn't talk about his part in the fight because it was so bad. Everyone who was able to use healing magic went around healing everyone from even the slightest injuries. Felix continuously shot glances towards Sylvain, but did not go over to him or anything. Ingrid was trying to talk to him, but he would not reply. Ash came up to Felix. "Great job today, friend." He smiled and wanted to give Felix a high five. Felix looked up at him. His eyes looked tired and lifeless. "We lost," he said, not giving him a high five. Ash stayed smiling, holding his hand up. After a few seconds, he gave up, but still walked with him. "It's true that we lost, but we all tried our best, didn't we? And that's what counts. I saw you fighting against Petra, it was really something. I wish I could fight like you, Felix." Felix frowned. "I've been off my game lately." "I'm not," he paused and sighed. "I'm losing my touch. I don't know why. I'm in some kind of funk." Ash said, "Everyone has their off days. When I was dealing with my leg injury, I didn't think that I would ever feel the same. I had zero confidence, but then I started telling myself that I could accomplish anything and I started feeling better about myself." He was trying to sound really inspirational. "Felix, you may be in a funk now, but you will overcome it. I know you will. And if you ever need a friend to help guide you through, I'm right here." "Thanks, Ash," Felix said quickly. "I guess I just need to regain my motivation or something. I'm not sure how." Ash said, "Sometimes, it's hard to know what the next step is. Sometimes the next step is, quite literally waiting for the next step. I've noticed that you're not your usual self, and I know we're not as close as you and Ingrid, or you and Sylvain, but I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do, just let me know." "I'm not close with them," Felix snapped. "Just would you leave me alone right now?" He gripped his training sword tighter and began speed walking ahead before Ash could respond. Something was really off with him. "Oh. I'm sorry. I thought, okay. Well, good job today, Felix. You inspire me so much." Ash waved. Hilda approached Casper as everyone was heading back towards the church. "Hey. You did a great job today," she told him. "Are we still on for our date tonight?" Casper looked a little sad, but it was just because he had to sit through a harsh talk from Edelgard. His face lit up when Hilda approached him. "Oh. Hey. Thanks, you did great too. I didn't want to knock you out too hard, cause then you probably wouldn't want to go on a date with me after." He laughed. "So yeah, the date is definitely on." He was so excited. "Wait, but won't you be celebrating with your house?" "Yes, I really want to," Hilda admitted, "but you said the date can only happen tonight. There's no way I'm missing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity like that," she exclaimed. "Well, yeah. It has to be tonight if you want the special thing. You know, that cool surprise I mentioned." Casper smiled. "You're gonna love it. And I promise I won't get too excited and rock the boat. Linhard came with me to test some out, just to make sure they didn't have any leaks, and I jumped in it to test if it would stay afloat and we fell in." He laughed. "Haha, oh no. Well, let's make sure we don't go jumping into any of the boats, okay?" Hilda told him. "Now, I'm gonna go ahead and shower and change. Where should I meet you?" she asked. "Meet me by the gates. We gotta leave the monastery to get there. And you don't have to dress all nice or anything, we're gonna be at a lake, so, wear something you could possibly get wet in. Not that we'll fall in, but you never know," Casper exclaimed. "Got it. See you later." Hilda blew him a little kiss before skipping forwards in front of the group. Ash then saw Ignatz. He walked over. "Ignatz, I just need to let you know how amazing you are." Ignatz smiled. "Ash. I was just going to say the same to you. The way you cornered Linhard like that was nothing short of amazing. Between me and you, he asked me to corner him because he didn't want to fight, he didn't want his team to think he was giving up on them. So that didn't really count, you were the amazing one. Ash smiled. And you are a great painter. It had nothing to do with the fight, but he just wanted to be really nice. Oh. Ignatz blushed, covering his cheeks with his hands. Thank you. If you'd like, I can paint you a picture sometime. Maybe of a flower? Or a puppy? Or yourself? He offered. What about me with a flower and a puppy? Ash happily asked, folding his hands in an excited manner. Haha. Yes. I will do precisely that. Ignatz said. I can picture it in my mind right now. I've been looking for something new to paint. Thanks, Ash. He smiled. You're welcome. Ash said, then walked over to Leonie and started talking to her about how she was so fearless. Didu approached Dimitri as they walked. May I ask what Edelgard said to you? During the battle. Dimitri's knee was feeling better since he saw a healer, but he was still exhausted from the fight. He looked at the ground, angry. She told me my father would be ashamed of who I've become. Along with my stepmother, he seemed really hurt by this. She said that I was a disgrace to them. A fool consumed by blind rage, he clenched his fists. Didu replied, do not listen to a single word spewed from that woman's mouth. She does not know you like I do. How tirelessly you work, or how kind, strong, and selfless you are. Her words still stung. I don't know what provoked such talk, but she had no right to speak of them that way. To speak of me that way, they both died a gruesome death, and instead of honoring them, she decides to degrade them. The matter infuriated him. You have every right to be angry with her. I do not know why she thought that to be true, or why she decided to say that to you. You are bringing your family honor, your highness. I can promise you that, said Didu. Dimitri stared at the ground as he walked. Thank you. I want to believe you, but sometimes I tend to focus on the bad rather than the good, even though your words mean way more to me than hers, he said. Everybody gets in their own heads sometimes, Didu told him. We know the truth. We know how honorable you really are. He grabbed Dimitri's hand. Shouldn't that be all that matters? Why must you listen to someone like Edelgard? Because she's my... No. You're right. Didu squeezed Didu's hand. You're right, and you always will be right. I don't know why she's going straight for my throat, but it's unreasonable. Perhaps Edelgard and I will never be able to see eye to eye. It's because she's changed. You can see it in her eyes, and hear it in her tone. She's not the same Edelgard you once knew. And she's never coming back. I understand you two had known each other for a while, but I have a feeling that woman is hiding something, Didu said. I think you're right about her hiding something. Something is very wrong, she's definitely changed. And I want to have a talk with her. I'll admit, I may have overreacted on the battlefield today, but I want to be civil with her, Dimitri said. I think that is a great idea. If you need me there for moral support, please be honest, Didu said as the entire group finally returned to the monastery and went back to their rooms. I think this needs to be between me and her. I appreciate the thought, but I'll talk to her one-on-one. That doesn't mean I won't tell you all about it, though, said Dimitri. Didu nodded. I wish you the best of luck. But I beg you, do not allow her into your head. Hilda was already by the gates for her date. Caspar was late. He rushed out of his room, almost falling down the steps as he went to find Hilda. He waved to her as he ran. I'm coming. He stopped in front of her, panting. I'm here. Hilda laughed. Caspar. Hello. You ran so fast. Yeah. I did. I was running late cause when I was taking a bath I got my big toe stuck in the spout. I don't know why I decided to stick my toe in there, but I did. He caught his breath. Anyway. I'm here now. Let's get going, my lovely lady. He offered her his arm. She laughed. You're always getting into the silliest situations. I kinda love it. She linked her arm with his. It's so pretty out. It's nice out, yeah. I couldn't have picked a more perfect day. He brought her into town, but once they got to the river walk, he veered off and started bringing her someplace else. Is there a reason you picked this night specifically? She asked as they walked. Like, is there a reason or just because? Yeah. I picked it for a reason. But you won't know what that reason is until later. Now come on. He led her over to the boat, taking her by the hand because it was a little steep going down to the water. He stopped in front of the boat, and then helped her in. Okay. So I'm gonna push this thing in, and as it's starting to float, I'm gonna quickly jump in. He explained. You might wanna hold on tight. Wait. She held onto the ledges of the rowboat. Don't jump too hard. She twisted around to look at him. Didn't you say you jumped in with Linhard and fell in? She asked. That's different. That was in the middle of the lake, which I won't do this time. Now hold on. He revved up, then sprinted for the boat. Hurrack. He pushed the boat into the water with one great shove, then hopped in as the boat slid off the shore and into the water. Booyah! He shouted, doing a fist pump. And out to sea we go. He took the oars and started rowing. The lake was very calm and still, and there were fireflies dazzling above the surface and around the grass on the banks. Nice! Hilda exclaimed, but she was still holding onto the edges just in case. You did that pretty easy. She said, whoa, look how pretty it is. He kept rowing, the swoosh of the water the only sound besides the crickets and frogs. Pretty neat, huh? The moon reflected beautifully across the surface of the water. Couldn't have picked a better night to take you out. He stopped rowing once they reached the center of the lake. I hope you don't get seasick. 'Cause then we'd have a problem. Nope. Never. I absolutely adore boat rides, Hilda told him. She leaned over and dipped her fingers into the lake, waving them around across the surface. Try not to get mung on your fingers, Casper said. This lake looked like it was full of it in the daytime. She picked her hand up and it was free of mung hung. Don't worry. None here, she said, playfully flicking some water at him. Hey. He started laughing right away. I'm gonna get you back for that. He dipped his hand in the water, then flicked some back at her. I'm gonna smell like pond now. Wait, maybe I should stop flicking water at you. You smell really good actually. Haha. She used her forearm to wipe the water from her cheek. You think so? Thanks. It's a perfume made from gardenias. She exclaimed. Yeah, well I love it. Whenever you walk past, it's like I'm walking through a field of flowers. She nodded. I try to smell my best, in all honesty. She admitted. But that's besides the point, come on. I wanna know the reason. The reason? The reason for what? He tilted his head, forgetting even that he had a surprise for her. He put his hands on his knees, leaning forward a little. You said there was a reason why you chose this exact time. She reminded him. But you still have yet to tell me the reason why. Oh. Duh, yeah. But, it's sort of something you gotta see, not something I can tell you. I don't really know how to explain it, you just gotta wait. Which is the hard part. I hate waiting for stuff. Except, time kinda goes by faster when I'm with you. In a good way. Ah, I think so too, she said with a small smile. You know. I really feel like Marianne would enjoy something like this, her voice sort of trailed off. You think? We should invite Marianne sometime to take a boat trip. She's a nice girl. The boat swayed a little, so he sat more toward the center. He didn't notice it because it was behind him, but there was a flickering yellow speck in the sky in the distance. Hilda nodded. She is, isn't she? She sighed deeply. Yeah. I always hey, what's that? She asked, pointing behind Casper. They're in the sky. Oh. It's starting. Casper turned around rather quickly, making the boat teeter, but it wasn't enough for them to tip. Keep watching. This is gonna be so cool. After a while, the night sky blossomed with light. There were yellow and gold lanterns lighting up the heavens, casting a pretty glow among the surface of the lake. Casper turned back around to face Hilda, wanting to see her reaction. Hilda gasped slightly, her hands clasped together underneath her chin. She had a big smile on her face, staring up at the lights. "Casper, this is so beautiful!" she exclaimed. "They're never ending. How many are there?" She looked at him now, tearing her eyes away from the lights. The glow illuminated her eyes and her hair, making her seem a lot brighter. "I dunno. Like, at least, 10. Casper looked around, unable to count them all. Every year, the town releases lanterns to celebrate the victory of whoever wins the battle of the eagle and lion. This year, the golden deer won, so the lanterns are gold. Neat, huh? The sky would look a whole lot different if my house won. Or the blue lions." One of the lanterns fell low to the water, so Casper took it. "Oh, this one lost some steam. Here, let me help this guy get back up there." He held it gently, but then suddenly whipped it back into the sky with a big grunt. It flew fast and skyward, but the throw burned out the candle and it perched on the surface of the water before dissolving in the lake. "Whoops. Oh my gosh. They're for me," she exclaimed, clapping her hands. "That is so cool," she said with a smile. "I wonder if Marianne and the others are seeing this right now." She looked at Casper once again. "Thank you so much for bringing me out here." "Probably. I know you'd probably rather be back with your house right now celebrating, so, thank you for taking some time to share this moment with me, Hilda." Casper smiled. "Oh, no. I wouldn't trade this for the world," she exclaimed. "It's gorgeous." She looked away again, infatuated with the lights. Casper gazed up as well. He wasn't as enamored as she was, but he was still having a nice time looking at everything. He found himself staring down at his feet, though, trying to psych himself up. "Wow," she turned again, watching as they began to get further away. "To think, I would have never experienced this if it weren't for you." He picked his head up. "It's a lot more fun to watch the lights up close, isn't it?" "Yeah, it would have looked cool if we watched from the monastery, but we were just in the heart of it all." Your face lit up brighter than all the lanterns combined. "Ha. You know, I think you pay attention to things more than you let on," she told him. "I really respect you, Casper. You're a great guy." "Yeah. I am a great guy, aren't I?" He gave her a proud smile. "And, you're a great gal. I mean, you're nice. And you smell good, and you're kind, and very strong, way stronger than you look. And funny and cute." His face got a little red. "Hilda," he paused. "I really like you." She smiled. "I really like you too, Casper. I mean, come on, you're my little teddy bear." She reached over to ruffle his hair, but the boat rocked and she fell forward slightly, catching herself on his shoulders. "Oops. Sorry." "Whoa." Casper let out a surprised little yelp, catching her when she fell into him because he didn't want her to fall in. "It's all right," he said, looking across at her. He didn't take his eyes off of her, and he really wanted to kiss her, but he didn't know how. Every few seconds, his eyes would flit to her lips, then back to her eyes again. One moment, she did a tiny movement forward with his head like he was going to, but stopped because he had no clue how to continue. Hilda smiled suddenly, seeming to realize what was going on. She didn't say anything, only leaned forward, placing a gentle kiss on his lips. She didn't want him to stress out. He let her do it, sort of glad that she was the one who started it. It didn't last for a super long time, but it was definitely longer than a quick peck. After he pulled his head away, he looked at her with wide eyes, keeping his hands on her arms. She blinked at him a few times. Her cheeks were rosy. "How's that for a redo?" she asked. "I think it was well deserved." Casper's face glowed pink as well, and a smile spread across his face. "Hey. I actually really liked that. That was nicer than I thought it would be," he said. "Before this, I thought kissing was like, gross. But I don't know, Hilda. I kinda wanna do it again." He sounded all embarrassed when he said that. "Was that your first kiss?" she asked him. "Like ever? You have never kissed anybody before me." Yeah. That was my first kiss. If you couldn't tell, I kinda had no clue what I was supposed to do, haha." Hope you didn't mind. I was kinda glad you started it. He was still smiling. No. I'm surprised. It was good. She thought about the kiss she shared with Dmitri. He wasn't very good, even in comparison to Casper. Was it? 'Cause I've had like, zero practice. But, like, this isn't really something you can practice doing? So, yeah. He raised his eyebrows. You're a pro already. She smiled, leaning in and kissing him once more. A pro? Really? Wow. Okay. Wasn't expecting you to say that. In that case, you wouldn't mind, if we... He noticed her leaning in, so he mimicked her and kissed her back, gently resting his hands on her arms. She pulled away after a while. Casper. Can I ask you something? He seemed really happy by the look on his face when she pulled away. Yeah, what is it? He asked, curiously tilting his head. Do you like me just because of the way I look? And the way I dress and smell and things like that? Or is there more to it? She asked with a small frown. Wait, what do you mean? He backed up a little bit, clearly confused. Am I not supposed to like you for those things? Am I liking you the wrong way? Is there a wrong way to have a crush on someone? Is this a trick question? I mean, are you disappointed in my personality? Hilda asked quietly. Don't get me wrong, I want you to like me for my appearance too. But I don't know. Disappointed in your personality? No. If I was disappointed in your personality, I wouldn't be here with you right now. Plus, I would have punched your lights out in the Battle of the Eagle and Lion, which I didn't do, he said. You're really nice to me. I get happy when I'm around you 'cause I know we're just gonna have fun and laugh together, you know. You really think so? She sighed, relieved. It makes me happy to hear you say that, she told him. Sorry if that came out of nowhere. I just feel like you're easy to talk to. Me? Easy to talk to? Actually, I've heard the opposite. Maybe it's because I hang around Linhard too much. He's always on my case about something or whatever. He shrugged. You're not on my case about anything. You just call me goofy nicknames and we have a good time. It's great. She giggled. That's very true. I've always wanted someone like you in my life. It's nice to get close to someone and not have them worry constantly about you, she said, looking up at the sky. Do you think we should head back? Casper grabbed the oars and started rowing back as he spoke with her. So are we like, technically? Are we dating now? I mean, we've been on a few dates before this, but are we like, dating now? Are we close enough to establish that? He asked. I mean, we kissed. I mean, yeah, Hilda said with a small nod. If people ask, I'd probably tell them I'm going out with you, she said, smiling. I have a feeling there will be more kisses in our future, too. When the boat hit the shore, he helped her out, and then let her hold onto his arm again as they walked back if she wanted to. Then, that's what I'll tell people too. I'll tell them that I'm going out with you, and I'll let everyone know that I'm proud of it. He exclaimed. And you bet. I definitely don't think it's gross anymore. Kissing is nice. At least, kissing you is nice, that's what I know. She smiled again, holding onto his arm and leaning her head on his shoulder as they walked. You really know how to make a girl feel special, Casper, she said. Thank you again for the wonderful date. I wasn't really doing anything special or out of the ordinary, but I did want to make sure you were happy the whole time. 'Cause I care about you. A lot. And I hope things are swell between us here on out. He stopped in front of his door when they got to the dorms, and he held both of her hands in his. Oh, and thank you for the wonderful date. Couldn't have pulled it off without you. Haha. He smiled, clearly happy. I'm honored, Casper, she said, giggling. Have a good rest of your night, okay? I'll come and find you tomorrow after classes. I sure will. And I hope you'll be smiling for the rest of the night. He sort of lingered around for too long, obviously not wanting the night to end 'cause he was having such a good time. Good night, Casper. She leaned forward and gave him the tiniest little kiss on the tip of his nose before retreating into her room. "Good night." He waved as she headed back in, then happily started walking down the hall to his room as well. He couldn't wait to tell everybody that he was dating Hilda the next day. Chapter 58, Principal's Office. The next morning, classes seemed to drag on. Once they were released, Felix immediately headed to the training area, and worked until he was drenched in sweat. Dmitri was finishing up training for the day, feeling uncomfortable because it was still so warm out. He wiped his forehead on his sleeve, watching Felix with a frown. He didn't want to interrupt, but he said, "Felix, when you have a moment, I'd like to talk with you." Felix slammed into one of the training dummies with his sword, and it shattered into a million pieces. He was breathing heavily, and his hair fell into his eyes as he turned to look at Dmitri. "What could you possibly want to talk to me about?" He took a few steps towards him. "First of all, that was impressive. I'd like to see you obliterate our enemies like that," Dmitri said. "But that isn't what I've come to talk to you about. I wanted to have a chat about your father, if you can spare the time." A sudden look of anger flashed across his face. "Is this some sick joke?" he said, walking closer to him. "What? Make it quick. Now, don't become angry with me." He shook his head. "I actually wanted to tell you that. I feel he's become overbearing. You've been acting differently since his visit 2 weeks ago. I don't know what he said to you, but ever since then, you haven't been yourself. He doesn't listen to you, and that isn't fair. After all, I was the one who convinced him to let you stay. He should have been listening to you. There was a reason. A stupid one, but there was a reason," he said. "And yes, he's overbearing and controlling. Don't you think I'm aware that I haven't been myself?" He folded his arms. "I'm well aware. I can't get myself out of it." "I want to help you," Dmitri offered. "He's thinking more of my well-being than his own son's, and although House Frildarius is tasked with being a shield to the royal family, I want you to be able to live a life of your own." "Humph. Wouldn't that be nice?" Felix replied, still not looking Dmitri in the eye. "With the direction I was bringing House Frildarius, my father was afraid my crest would disappear. And our bloodline would disappear. Pathetic, huh? I understand his concern, as both a parent and a member of House Frildarius, but I am not in agreement with him," Dmitri explained. "I'm aware of how the kingdom operates. I'm going to be crowned king in the near future. The land thrives on crests and sacred bloodlines, but I'm wondering, does all of that truly matter when it comes to status? I know people who don't bear a crest who are just as strong, take Dida for instance." He paused, thinking about what Felix just said. "What direction do you mean to take your house?" "I can't tell you," Felix said quietly. "I can't. My father would find out or something, and attempt to pull me out of school. As far away from," he almost said Sylvian. "As far away from here as he can get me." He paused. "I just don't see why dash." He looked at Dmitri. "Why am I telling you this?" "Never mind. You don't usually open up like this. It's not like you." Dmitri paused. "You must place some degree of trust in me more than you let show, at least." He hoped Felix would continue what he was saying, wondering why he cut himself off. "You don't see why what?" he curiously asked. What do I have left to lose?" Felix dropped his training sword and looked at Dmitri, taking a deep breath. "I was in love with a guy. A boy. Someone I can't have children with. My father found out and made us break up. No point beating around the bush. I have a feeling I'm never going to get back with him again." He sounded extremely pained to explain his situation, but felt compelled to tell Dmitri for some reason. Oh, Dmitri definitely wasn't expecting Felix to be so open about his feelings. It really took him by surprise. He didn't interrupt, even though he had a lot of questions. However, he didn't want to ask too many personal questions, so he left it up to Felix what information he wanted to give. "I am deeply sorry to hear that." Truly, he frowned, suddenly thinking of how sad it would be to hear that he couldn't be with Dudu. Surely, his uncle and Rodrigue would be disappointed if they found out about that as well. He trailed off, not saying what he intended to at first. After my coronation, I'll make sure Firgus is a more tolerant place. I swear. Right. Well. Doesn't matter. Felix shook his head. All I care about is being able to be with him right now. Look, we had a plan for after school. A plan to be together. But now? Nothing. I have to bend to all my father's requests, even when it interferes with my wants and desires. He picked his sword back up. But you have your shield. That's all you've ever wanted. That's unfortunate. And I do feel sorry for you, so please, let me know if there is anything I can do to make things easier for you. I will try to talk to your father about it, perhaps he will listen to me. The kingdom is very much synchronized with the central church, but some things still don't sit right with me. Dmitri paused, debating on whether he should tell Felix something in return. He didn't directly say it, but he did explain it in an ambiguous way. I will certainly practice what I preach. In that respect, he looked at Felix, wondering if he knew what he meant. Felix turned to face him once more, just staring at him for a moment. It was a look of mutual understanding, but Felix refused to say anything else. Now leave. Before I use you as a training dummy. He looked away. He would never tell Dmitri, but he was intensely grateful for the conversation they just had. Dmitri didn't add anything else either. He just gazed back at Felix for a few moments, inferring that he got the message. Seeing how you destroyed the training dummy from before, I think now is the perfect time to take my leave. Thank you for your time, Felix. He gave him a slight bow of the head before leaving, his heart pounding in his chest as he walked away. When afternoon rolled around, Seath was walking down the hallway, making sure everything was in order. He was holding something in his hand, though it was a small, broken shot glass. There was a look of silent fury on his face. Oh, brother. Flane ran up to him. What do you have there? She asked. Did you find some sort of treasure? May I see it, please? Flane. He hid the glass from her. The item in question is inappropriate for your age and detrimental to your well-being. He was trying not to seem too angry as he spoke. Were you or were you not at the slumber party? He asked. Yes, I was at the slumber party. I was there with Cyril. He is my friend, she said with a smile. Why do you ask? Oh. I see. Seath frowned. I was under the assumption that this party would be school-friendly, the one time I decided to relax my strict rules for you. I find this lying in the gardens, he said. I trust that you were safe during this sleepover and adhered to my rules, yes. Oh yes, I did. Cyril and I did not even join in on the truth or dare game. It was dirty. She shook her head and made a disgusted face. Truth or dare? He looked appalled. Flane. I cannot believe you were exposed to such a crude game. And, on top of that, you are spending too much time with that boy. I am going to have to ask you to refrain from having one-on-one encounters with him. He did a short, angry sigh. And you thought truth or dare was bad? He said, I think you are forgetting another pertinent detail of this party. He revealed the broken glass. I am irate. Flane, I am disappointed beyond belief that you attended a party where alcohol was present. He started losing his calm. I demand you tell me at once who is responsible for exposing you to such dangers. And, furthermore, this is a dry campus. The students should not have access to such substances. I do not know, brother. Flane exclaimed, shaking her head. I did not drink any of it. I did not go near any of the other students. Some of them were very, very drunk, she told him. But they did not kick me out of the party. So for that, I am grateful. I assumed as much. This behavior, especially from students at this high-esteemed academy, is unacceptable. Flane, you are not to attend any more parties held here, as the student body has proven distrustful. I need to find out who the source of the alcohol was and punish them. He took out a notepad and flipped to an empty page. Flane, do me a favor and tell me who brought the substance. In addition, tell me who partook in the drinking of it. Okay, Flane replied. Here is everyone who had a drink. I think. Claude, Dmitri, Balthus, Felix, Ingrid, Sylvain, Constance, Dorothea, Yuri, Casper, Ferdinand, Petra. She paused. I think that is it. Maybe Linhard had a sip. Seath wrote all of the names down, shaking his head. What a shame. They are not going to like this punishment. I am so very disappointed in these individuals, but that is not anything I need to say to you, Flame. I want you to head to your room immediately. I need to speak with the individuals on this list. He dismissed her, then went to the intercom, even if it didn't really exist. He pushed the button. Attention students. May I see Claude, Dmitri, Balthus, Felix, Ingrid, Sylvain, Constance, Dorothea, Yuri, Casper, Ferdinand, Petra, and Linhard in my office please? Report at once. He stopped recording. Since classes were going on, all the people who were called had to get up and leave in the middle of class. Some people were like cause they got called down. Hanneman put a tally on the board for that, which would be a minute for them to stay after the bell for causing a class disruption. Everyone met in the hallway. What the hell are we being called down for? Claude asked, looking around at everyone as they walked towards the office. Ingrid looked so scared. She never got in trouble. Sylvain was the least scared of the group. I don't know. But I've been called down more times than I can count. It's really not as bad as you think. Seath is a little scary, but he's harmless. At least, I think. Casper said, well, it would really help to know what we're being called down here for. Ferdinand was also extremely anxious. He never got in trouble either. My father is going to let me have it if he finds out I got in trouble at the academy. Seath was standing in front of the door with his arms crossed. Dmitri walked with Claude. Does this have to do with the Battle of the Eagle and Lion? He asked. Maybe, instead of getting called down for something bad, he's going to praise us. Seath let them all in. I'm sure you all are well aware of why you are here. Linhard shook his head. Actually, no. None of us have a single clue. Ingrid didn't say anything. She just stared at Seath. Felix was silent as well. Claude asked, is it cause we did really good in the battle yesterday? He looked at Seath. I mean, that's all I can think of. Seath just looked at Claude sternly. That is most certainly not the reason I have summoned you all here today. A matter has come to my attention that I need to deal with. Something each of you partook in. He took the glass out, and held it out in his palm, showing them. I assume all of you are familiar with this item. He walked back and forth along the line, then stopped in the middle. I found it lying around the gardens. Constance played dumb. Huh? Whatever could that item be? She asked. I've never seen it before in my life. By the gardens, you say? Do not play coy with me, young lady. Seath frowned. This is a shot glass that is used for consuming alcoholic beverages. He scanned the line, waiting for one of them to say something. Seems like Professor Manuela needs to start cleaning up after herself. Sylvain spoke out of turn. Seath didn't hesitate to say, this was not her doing. I have received a report from someone at the party that alcohol was present, and that all of you were drinking. Which is strictly against monastery rules. Not to mention, the majority of you are not of age to possess these types of beverages. Linhard shook his head. I wasn't part of that. I didn't have a single drop. So you admit there was alcohol at the party? Seath said. Constance glared at Linhard. Okay. I'm sorry, yes. Ingrid blurted out. There was alcohol at the party. Claude brought it, and we all thought it would be okay if we had a drink or two. I'm so sorry, Seath, it will never happen again. Ferdinand gasped. Ingrid. He looked devastated. Seath's gaze fell on Claude. So it was you who distributed the alcohol? What a shame. What a devastating shame, as noble heir to House Reagan of the Alliance. I expected much better from you. He looked at all of them. As students of an esteemed academy. I expected better from all of you. He looked at Ingrid. Thank you for your honesty, but despite that, I am still irate. Claude frowned. Sorry. I mean, we didn't even get drunk or anything. They did though. It was just a few sips. Really? He shrugged, kind of frustrated that Hilda wasn't getting any punishment for this. The fact that you have to justify that makes me think you are not telling the truth, Seath said. Linhard replied, well, there was one person who overly indulged and dash. It was me. Sylvain cut him off. Haha, yeah. It was me. Got super crunk. What can I say, I just wanted to have a good time. He shrugged, shooting a small glance at Felix before looking back at Seath. That does not surprise me, Seath said. Thank you for confessing. All of you will be serving detention. But Sylvain, you owe double time, and I will contact your father and inform him of your behavior. He glared at all of them. You are all dismissed. Everyone began walking out of the office, but Felix hung back, watching everyone walk out before him. Seath. He folded his arms. Seath disposed of the glass, and turned around to see Felix still standing there. Do you have further matters to discuss with me? He asked, standing behind his desk. I do, Felix said. I don't know why, but Sylvain took the blame for me. He wasn't drunk. He shook his head. I can't remember a thing from the party. Don't punish him for something he didn't do. He was actually the responsible one. I drank a little too much. A lot too much. He was upset to admit it, but couldn't let Sylvain take the blame. Seath folded up some papers as Felix spoke, but stopped in the middle of it as he heard what Felix had to say. I see. He looked up from his documents. I appreciate you stepping forward. The integrity. He walked around his desk. Don't get me wrong, I'm still disappointed in you beyond words, but I shall lift Sylvain's harsher punishment and transfer it to you. I'm quite surprised it ended up being you instead of him, honestly. He said, it seems as though he cares greatly for you, as he was willing to take the blame for something like that. Felix bit his cheek hard, and looked off to the side. Yeah, he does, he mumbled. I apologize for my behavior, he said, bowing his head slightly before turning and exiting the office. Apology acknowledged, but not accepted. I will accept the apology once I see an end to this poor behavior. Not just from you, but in general. Seath watched Felix leave the office. When Felix opened the door, it swung outward. Someone from behind the door said ow. What the dash? Felix stepped out and closed the door behind them, looking to see who he had just hit with the door. Sylvain was behind there, holding his forehead. When he took his hands away, there was a small red mark from the door. He looked back at Felix like he didn't know what to say. Felix's lips parted slightly, as if he didn't know what to say either. He just kind of stammered, "Ed, are you doing here?" Chapter 59, Suspicious Behavior. Sylvain responded, I took the blame for you and you were honest with Seath anyway. He looked back at him for a few beats. They hadn't talked since the night of the party, even though Felix probably couldn't remember. Yeah. I did. Why would I get you in deeper trouble with your father over something I did? Again, Felix said, looking away after that last part. I don't know. I wanted to help you out. Sylvain put his hand on the back of his neck. Felix, you don't remember anything from that night. Felix slowly started to walk down the hallway beside Sylvain. I remember only because Ingrid and I had a very, very long talk about it. He sighed. God, I was such an idiot. I can't imagine myself doing the things I did ever again. Sylvain walked alongside him, resisting the urge to brush against him. Ah, I see, so you and Ingrid had a talk, right? I won't bring up anything that happened between you guys. He frowned, looking straight ahead. You know, it was pretty embarrassing for you. I'm not gonna lie. It hurt to see you like that, and I can't help but feel at fault. I guess that's why I took the blame. He paused. I took care of you, though. You know, while you were drunk. Ingrid told me, Felix said with a small nod. I really don't get why you did that. Our fathers will never believe that we split if they see us with one another. He mumbled, be more careful. I don't want anything to happen to you. He sounded concerned. But I do wish I remembered kissing you. No. You wouldn't have wanted to remember. It wasn't nice. At all. It was rather embarrassing, actually. Everyone saw. I know it was just for a game, but, still. The way it happened wasn't something you'd be happy remembering, that's for sure. Ugh, yeah, Ingrid was saying that. Felix shook his head. But still. You know what I mean. I haven't been doing well lately. Something is off with me. And it's you. I know it is. I've been off too. No doubt about it. This whole breakup thing is making me a wreck, Sylvain sighed. But we both know it's for the best. And it's only temporary. He stopped walking once they made it around the corner where nobody was. Felix frowned. It's just, so stupid. Honestly, why don't we just run away right now? I mean, if that's still what you want. He said, he hesitated, fine never seeing any of these people again. I'd miss some of them. Like His Highness and Ingrid, Sylvain frowned. I've made some great friends here, Felix. I'm not ready to leave that all behind, but at the same time, I'm not happy having to hide. He sighed. Don't you think we should at least? Hey, Sylvain. Are you Yuri turned the corner, not seeing Felix at first. Oh. Never mind, carry on. He turned around. What's he doing here? Felix pointed at Yuri. Are you two friends now or something? He asked, looking at Yuri, then looking back at Sylvain. Sylvain looked between Yuri and Felix. Yeah. He didn't elaborate. Yuri turned around. You haven't forgotten about the whole safe haven thing, have you? We've been discussing things for when the time comes. He looked at them for a few moments, then started walking away. Sylvain was oddly quiet. What? Why would he only tell you about it? Felix asked, frowning. He asked Sylvain, and why didn't you tell me anything he's been telling you? Ah, Sylvain nervously placed his hand on the back of his neck again. Well, things have been a little rough. I didn't know if you'd want to talk to me, you know. He lied. The more time we spend together, the harder it is to spend time apart. I thought maybe I could surprise you, you know. That's a stupid reason, Felix said with a small frown. Do you not want to see me or something? Are you, he paused. Losing feelings for me? What? Felix. Sylvain shook his head, waving both of his hands. That's not it at all. What makes you think that? He paused. Actually, I can think of a lot of reasons why you'd think that. Before you, I've never actually had a stable relationship, or one that lasted longer than, he trailed off. But that's not it at all. You, Felix sighed. Remember the night where he seemed like he was having a hard time saying this. Where I said I loved you. You told me all of your commitment issues. He scuffed the ground with his toe. I worry I'm not enough for you. Sylvain let out a long sigh and covered his mouth with his hand, pacing a little before saying anything again. I said that before I knew how committed I was, okay? Or, maybe that's not the best way to put it. I said that because I was worried about myself not being able to handle long term. But I proved to myself that I can. With you. And when the right time comes around, you know we'll be happy. He looked him in the eyes. You're the only one for me. You know that. I know, Felix replied, looking back up at him. I know I am. I just wish things didn't have to be this way. If you keep talking to me like this, I won't be able to leave your side. See? It's just hard. And we're gonna have to get through that before it can be easy. Sylvain crossed his arms, holding himself insecurely. Just make sure you put your faith in me, all right? Don't think for a second that I've moved on. Things are different with you. Why do you keep saying that? Felix asked. Now you're actually freaking me out even more. He frowned. Whatever. You've always been a weird guy. He shook his head. Saying what? You know what, never mind. Let's just leave it at that. Sylvain sighed. Anyway, I guess I'll see you around. Unless you got something else to talk about with me. I do. But it has to wait, doesn't it? Felix said quietly, looking up at Sylvain. He really didn't want to leave. Probably. Sylvain frowned, looking at him. He lingered, obviously not wanting to leave either, even though he had somewhere to be. Would it really hurt to go get some lunch in the dining hall with one another? Felix asked. Right now? Sylvain asked, his eyes looking toward the end of the hall and then back at Felix. Not that I can't go right now. I want to. Okay. You just said you can, so come on. Let's go. Felix began walking down the hallway. Sylvain started walking with Felix, glancing down at his hand before looking ahead again. Sorry. I feel like I'm making this awkward. And I'm not meaning to. It's okay. Really. I get it. And I don't blame you, Felix said. But does our splitting really mean that we can't see each other at all? It shouldn't. I think in the beginning, it's just tougher. 'Cause whenever I see your face I just wanna kiss it. Sylvain let out a frustrated sigh. And that's never gonna change, but it might get easier to resist. He frowned. Well, I don't want it to get easier, Felix pouted, folding his arms. I mean, how many weeks have we been split for? Time has no meaning to me since then. I haven't been keeping track. 3, just about. Sylvain said. I guess technically 18 days. But it feels way longer than that. He sat down at the table with his food. Yeah. It does, Felix said, sitting down across from him. I mean, our fathers aren't here to see us. What trouble can we cause by sharing a meal, right? Right, Sylvain stared down at his food, then looked up at Felix. There's no harm in that at all. I guess now I'm really paranoid, especially after our dads came to visit. They're definitely onto us. Well, maybe it's because I flat out told them you were my boyfriend, at the time, Felix said, quickly eating a spoonful of rice. Now? Not so much. Ingrid walked over to them. Hey, you two. She sounded oddly suspicious. She slowly sat down beside Sylvain. What is going on? Yeah, which probably wasn't the smartest move. Do you think your dad spilled the beans to mine? And what's even weirder is that our dads had history. Is that not weird to you? Sylvain ate a bite, not talking about it any further when Ingrid came over. Hey Ingrid. We're just having lunch together. Having a chat about life. He shrugged. That's all. I see then. Good for you guys. Mind if I join you? Ingrid asked, even though she was already sitting down. Felix glanced at her for a moment, then looked back down at his food. Well, you're already here. We haven't asked you to leave, so I guess you have your answer. Sylvain stirred his food around a little bit. How about that meeting we just had, huh? We really got busted. You think Flane snitched? I didn't even know she was invited. Last time I walked within 6 feet of her, I almost ended up 6 feet under. Seath is watching me like a hawk. I feel so bad, you guys. I can't believe we got caught. It was so stupid of me to take a drink, said Ingrid. Felix rolled his eyes. It's over now. We can stop talking about it. He was clearly embarrassed. Then I'm the one at fault, Ingrid, 'cause I was the one who asked. But what's a good party without a little fun juice? Am I right? Sylvain shrugged, smiling a little bit. There are a million worse things we could do than party a little too hard. I guess you have a point. Ingrid sighed. Anyways, did you guys hear about our mission next month? It's kind of scary. We're going with the Golden Deer. Oh? Really? I don't think I've heard Dimitri say anything about it. Care to tell us what the mission's about? Sylvain asked. Something about taking out a group of dark mages near the monastery. I'm really not sure why they're there. Apparently Lady Edelgard requested that the Blue Lions take this one, Ingrid said. Strange. Why would she request that? Sylvain paused. Oh, that reminds me. Did anyone see Dimitri going absolutely savage against Edelgard in the Battle of the Eagle and Lion? Like, what the hell? Huh. Why are any of you surprised? I warned you about this. It's the boar's true nature, Felix said. Ingrid frowned. I don't know, Felix, it was brutal. He was seriously beating the crap out of her. Like, I don't know how she even managed to get up afterwards. I didn't think Dmitri had that in him. And it was totally unprovoked. Sylvain looked at Felix. Guess we should have listened to you sooner, huh? I've been trying to tell you guys. He's nothing but a monster, Felix told them, taking another bite of his rice. Well, Ingrid added, we didn't even end up winning. Which is a shame. We were so disconnected. Really, our team was fragmented. My injuries slowed me down and Dmitri rushed into the heat of battle without warning us. Our teamwork was awful. Sylvain sighed. Yeah. And Felix, you really weren't yourself. Ingrid started. Felix slammed his fists on the table. Stop saying that. He shouted. Ingrid backed up a little. Whoa, hey. Excuse you. Whoa. Guys, stop. Calm down. Sylvain stood up, holding his arms out, then slowly sank back into his chair. He changed the subject. And Ash kept telling the other teams how good they were doing, which didn't help us at all when things were heated. Heh, can you blame him? That's just how Ash is. Of course, we love him for it, Ingrid replied. But enough about that. I'm more focused on this next mission. I mean, I don't know. It seems a bit scary. Sylvain replied, it does. You said we're going out to take down some dark mages, right? You never really know what you're gonna be dealing with when facing up against an opponent like that. Exactly, Ingrid said. We don't. And that's what's so scary about it. Felix frowned. We can handle it. We'll be fine. He said, you can't keep saying it's scary. It's getting annoying. You never really know what's gonna happen in battle. You can plan for it all you want, think of the best strategies, but in the end, it's all up to luck, isn't it? Sylvain frowned, thinking of his injuries. Felix seemed to know what he was referring to, and pointed at him. If you think even for 1 second that you're going to risk your life for me again, he trailed off. That's not what I was implying. I might sustain a few cuts and scrapes for you, but nothing is gonna be worse than what already happened. Seriously, I can't think of anything worse. I'm one lucky guy, if I do say so myself. Sylvain scraped down his plate and ate the pile he created with the little bits. Whatever. Just never do that again. I'd rather die than see you like that again, Felix said. Ingrid raised her eyebrows, looking between the both of them. Come on now. Don't say that. Sylvain frowned. Yeah, I risked my life for you, but that doesn't mean your health isn't important to me too. He sort of forgot Ingrid was in on this conversation for a second. I don't care. Really. It's the truth, Felix replied. It's hard to get that day off my mind. I thought you were dead, Sylvain. I understand that everything is fine now, but I don't want a repeat of what happened. I'm not going to recreate that day. Unless it's an accident, but I have no intention of putting myself through that again. Or you, for that matter. Too much pain on both your and my ends, Sylvain said. Felix nodded. Glad that's settled. He got up and grabbed all of their trays and went to put them away. Ingrid turned to Sylvain once he left. Are you guys doing okay? She whispered. Sylvain watched Felix leave, then sighed, and put both hands on the back of his head and hunched over. I don't know. I want to say yes, but I don't think we are. Something feels wrong. Really? Ingrid asked sadly. What do you mean? Did he say something to you? She covered her mouth with her hand. No. He thinks that I lost feelings for him. Sylvain ran his fingers through his hair, then sat up straighter. Which isn't true. I'm just worried, that's all. I feel like I'm trying to distance myself without realizing it. A while back, I told him I might have commitment issues. I think I might be right. He covered his mouth, sadly. Wait. Sylvain, are you going back to your old ways? She looked disappointed. How many girls have you been with since you two broke up? None. He shook his head. And? I'm not even thinking about girls anyway. I've been with a guy once, and I don't know if I wanna go back. We'll see. I mean, we won't see, because I still wanna be with Felix. He said that louder than he meant to, but nobody heard. Damn it, he gripped his hand closed, burying his face in his palm, clearly stressing. Sylvain, seriously, what's going on? Ingrid asked. If it really is that, then you need to tell Felix. He comes into my room every single night to talk to me about you, you know. He really loves you, you need to tell him if he should stop waiting for you. Sylvain stared at the table for a while, thinking about what Ingrid said. Does he really? I guess I just didn't expect him to be so open about the way he feels about me, you know. He paused. Ingrid, he shook his head. Felix doesn't deserve me. He really doesn't. I'm a jerk. I know that he knows that. But don't you dare tell him to give up on me. So you are going with girls behind his back. Sylvain. What is wrong with you? She exclaimed, throwing her hands up in the air. You're right. He doesn't deserve you. I can't believe you've gone back to your old self. Stop. No. I never said that, Sylvain replied, standing up, leaning slightly over the table. It might seem like something I would do, but there's nobody I would ever choose over Felix. I haven't gone back to my old self. He pointed at her. You should understand, my father is arranging a marriage for me that I want no part of. And the reason for that is because I'm in love with someone who I will never be able to be with due to the circumstances of Fodlan. If it was anybody else, I'd probably go through with the arrangement. If that's what you're referring to. Yes, you've told me about that. And I understand your struggle with that more than anyone. You of all people should know that, Ingrid said quietly. How are you planning to get out of this, anyways? Felix came back to the table. It's supposed to take place once I graduate. Felix and I were planning on. Sylvain didn't follow through with the rest of what he was going to say since Felix came back. He slowly sank back into his chair. Felix looked at them strangely, but didn't say anything. Ingrid cleared her throat. Well. It was nice sharing a meal with you two. It feels like forever since we've last done this. Yeah, it really has. Sylvain stared down at the table in front of him, hoping that Felix didn't hear a single word of that exchange. Felix looked at Sylvain, but didn't say anything either. Ingrid was feeling uncomfortable. She drummed her fingers on the table a few times, then put her hands in her lap, looking between the two of them. Sylvain didn't say anything until an uncomfortable amount of time had passed. So, how about that weather, huh? He looked between them both. Sylvain. Really? Felix chuckled. He really missed his time with Sylvain. He was usually the only one able to make Felix genuinely laugh. Ingrid smiled, looking down at the table. Sylvain smiled a little, his heart warming up a bit after hearing Felix laugh. What? Someone had to break the awkward silence. Neither of you stepped up to do it, so I seized the opportunity. You wanna finish our small talk or what? He was obviously joking. Felix shook his head, still smiling brightly. He just gazed at Sylvain from across the table, resting his chin on his hand. Ingrid replied, You always find something or other to say, Sylvain. I used to be more impulsive than this with my words, something you both know. Sylvain noticed how Felix was gazing at him, and it made him feel somewhat sad. He didn't let it show, though. I at least have a filter now, especially when it comes to flirting. I choose my words carefully. He gave Felix a little wink. Felix blushed and looked away, moving his arms off the table like he was all embarrassed all of a sudden. Ingrid frowned, seeming sad when she noticed their interaction. She stood up. Well. It was fun sitting with you guys, but I need to inform the other Blue Lions and Golden Deer about our mission. Going so soon? Ah. Well, we'll miss you, Ingrid. We should do this again soon. Maybe invite Dimitri next time. It would be nice to have our quartet get together, right? Sylvain smiled, giving her a little wave. Ingrid smiled when he said Dimitri's name. Yes. I think that would be a wonderful idea. She nodded. Ingrid. Dorothea called her name from across the mess hall. Ingrid looked at Dorothea, then made eye contact with Sylvain, My apologies. I'll see you two later, Ingrid said, waving back and hurrying off towards Dorothea. Have fun, Ingrid. But not too much fun. Sylvain teased her a little, then turned back to Felix. Well, I guess now's as good a time as ever to go study. He put both hands on the table, then stood up. Study. Felix stood up as well. I know you're not being serious. You've never said that before in your life. He folded his arms. It's true. We've got that test in 2 days and I'm literally almost failing the class. Sylvain leaned forward over the table a little bit so that he could speak more softly to Felix. And that's because 1, I was injured and studying was hard, and 2, I spent a lot of time making out with you that I could have been studying during, just so you know. He stood up straighter. Well, whose fault is that? Felix replied. Plus, Ingrid and I brought you the notes every day. He sighed. You're hopeless, Sylvain, if you need. I could help you study. Yup, I'm as hopeless as they come. That's definitely nothing I'm unaware of. I accepted that long ago. Sylvain shrugged. But I guess that wouldn't be a bad idea. Why don't you drop by tomorrow for a study date? Ha. I think at this point it would be rude not to. Felix replied, walking towards the exit with Sylvain. You know I want to invite you over to study, but I don't know. Felix, it's too risky for that. Sylvain stopped near the exit. Maybe once things die down. I just don't understand why we still need to spend time apart, Sylvain, Felix admitted. Our fathers aren't here. It's exactly the way things used to be, with us sneaking around. And I mean, we could always take up Yuri on his offer, he said. Why don't we go to Abyss and take a look? I mean, didn't you say you've been asking him about it? There's no point if we're still waiting to get together until after school ends. We won't have to use Abyss. Now would be the time. I see your point, Sylvain thought to himself, visibly struggling with the thoughts running through his mind. But the whole dispute with our parents happened only 2 weeks ago. You never know when they'll be back, or if the wrong person sees us at the wrong time. People are still talking about us, what happened at the party, I mean. Cyril's going around telling everybody, I'm sure. He looked around. We need to give it a bit more time. I want to make sure I can spend the rest of my life with you and get a formal education. Okay. Right. But you just avoided everything I said about Abyss. Didn't Yuri say we can go there if we need somewhere safe? And you said you've been asking him about it. We just talked about this. So? What's so wrong with that? I didn't avoid it. I guess I'm just not ready to fully transition to a life underground. Wouldn't it be weird if we just randomly disappeared down there during the school year? People will start looking for us, the teachers, our classmates, and our fathers, no doubt, Sylvain said. Whatever, for some reason I figured you'd be on board. You really don't want to spend time with me, do you? He shook his head. I'm starting to think this breakup is more than what you're letting on. Felix started to back away from Sylvain. Oh come on, you don't really mean that, do you? Just because I say I'm not ready to go off-grid. That means I don't want to spend time with you? I don't want to argue with you about this, Felix. I don't want to argue with you about anything. Sylvain frowned. I'm trying to make our escape as safe as possible, and that can't happen without time. Felix sighed. I'm sorry. I am. I'm so pathetic. He covered his eyes with the heels of his hands. I can't live without you. It's dramatic. I know. But I've been so off lately. I find no pleasure in anything I do without you. My life has been hell. He looked at Sylvain again. It's torture. I've been off lately too. For the same reasons. But I think I'm dealing with it a lot differently than you are, and it's working out for me. I've found ways to be patient. I'm waiting for the right time to get back together. I promise, you'll know when that time is. I'll make sure you know. But right now? I'm sorry, Felix. It's too soon. We'll be better off waiting. Felix didn't reply. He looked at Sylvain, nodded once, and then turned his back. He waited a few moments before walking forward, towards the training area. Sylvain took a few steps after Felix, reaching out to him, but then he stopped himself, and turned the other way. He tried not to look back at Felix as he walked off. Chapter 60, Get Some Rest. That morning, there was a knock on Claude's door. Edelgard was waiting for him to answer, her face all bruised up. Claude opened the door. What the hi. He looked at her skeptically. Is there something I can help you with? Why? She stepped in, uninvited. That is my question to you. She glared at him. The Battle of the Eagle and Lion was supposed to be a three-way fight. Not 2 versus 1. Hey, you're just mad because you lost. You've always been a sore loser. That's why we don't let you play trash ketball with us anymore, Claude told her. And anyways, it's over. It's not like it matters any longer. This isn't about childish games. This is war, Edelgard retorted, clearly not in the mood for his jokes. You humiliated my house. That was a dirty trick, Claude. I went to speak to Dimitri about it, but was met with cruel silence. The two of you clearly conspired against me. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. He didn't admit what they did was wrong though. I mean, what do you want me to do about it? You were the one who planned it. She snapped back at him, but then calmly regained control of herself. Next time we partake in a mock battle, do not expect me to play fair. She gave him an angry stare, then left. She bumped into Dimitri on the way out, and they stared at one another. Guys, you're being so dramatic, Claude said, stepping out between the two of them. Come on. There's no need for tension or anything like that. He said, let's all hug and make up. Go on. Edelgard and Dimitri stared at each other until Claude cut between them, and then Edelgard walked away without hugging or making up. Dimitri forced himself not to throw a glare at her as she left. She makes my blood boil, he muttered, darkly. I can see that. And strangely, I also understand that, Claude replied. But what's your reason for coming around here anyways? I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not doing too well. I came here because I haven't slept in 2 days. Not a wink of sleep in 48 hours, he put a hand to his head. I'm losing my mind. Talks with you seem to always clear my head, so, that's why I'm here. Whoa, Dimitri, seriously. Claude took his wrist and gently guided him into his room, closing the door behind him. What's going on? Why haven't you been sleeping? I can't shut it off. I just can't. I told Dida what Edelgard said to me before the fight, but I didn't tell you. He stepped inside, feeling safe to talk since the door was closed. She told me I was a disappointment to my bloodline, that my father and my stepmother would be ashamed of the man I've become, that I don't have what it takes to rule the kingdom, and I can't seem to shake her words. He shook his head slowly. He had horrible bags under his eyes, and his face was pale. What the hell? Claude sat down at his desk chair. She's so strange. And I'm sure this is common knowledge, but seriously, don't listen to a word she says. Both you and Didu have given me the same advice. I've tried to push her words out of my mind, but whenever I try to get some rest, they come back to haunt me. Dimitri sighed. Did she not say anything to you before the fight? He asked, wondering if she was just targeting him or if Claude was involved. No. I wasn't involved. It looks to me like you're the one being targeted, Claude answered his question. God, I'm sorry she's treating you that way. I honestly have no idea why she would say something like that. Dimitri, I think first and foremost, you need to get some rest. I can't. I can't rest, Claude. I don't think I'm going to be able to rest ever again, at this rate. Dimitri shrugged, doing a little flourish with his hand. You may as well hit me over the head with a heavy something, so that I'm forced into sleep. I don't know what else to do. I'm trying not to resort to unsavory methods, but it's tempting. He shook his head. Dimitri, calm down, Claude said with a small sigh. I'll even let you sleep in my bed. Seriously, for some reason I don't think you should be left alone right now. Thank you for coming to me for help, really. He nodded. But if you don't get sleep, you're only going to get worse. I feel guilty for bothering Didu about this sort of thing. He must be exhausted. Sick of my antics, but I'm no better for just carrying all of my problems over here and dumping them on you. It's not fair. His eyes darted around the room, looking everywhere but directly at Claude. Dimitri, please stop, frankly, you're kinda scaring me. Claude stood back up from his desk chair. You and I both know Didu is not upset with you about this. And neither am I. Scaring you? Oh. I apologize. I never meant for that. Dimitri turned around, hanging his head. So do you suppose I'm frightening Didu with my behavior? Are my struggles scaring people, Claude? I'm losing control, and I can feel it. No. I mean, I'm worried for you. And I know Didu is too, Claude said, reaching out and squeezing Dimitri's shoulder. You've been talking like this for a while now. I've seen it getting worse and worse. And I don't know how to help you, he said, his voice quieting at the end of his sentence. Please try and get some sleep. Or something. He sighed. I won't leave until you're asleep. When Claude came up behind him and squeezed his shoulder, Dimitri whipped around, almost shouldering him off. It was harsher than he meant it to be. No. Don't you understand? I can't sleep. My mind plays back an endless nightmare, whether I am asleep or awake. He turned around. And on top of that, there's so much to be done. I can't abandon my duties just for sleep. He rubbed his eyes, clearly exhausted. This is never going to get better. Sleep won't help, nothing will. See, calm down. Claude stuttered, backing up slightly. Dimitri, please, will you just listen to me? Lay down. Just for a moment, please. Now tell me, what helps you most when you feel this way? I'm sorry. I came here for help, and now I'm rejecting your help. I'm being difficult. Dimitri sighed, then slowly sat down on Claude's bed. He said, Didu usually calms me down. But I don't want to continually burden him with my problems. I'm sure it takes energy out of him to deal with me. I can't help but feel immense guilt. Look, I know I can't see into his head or anything like that, but I have a feeling he likes helping you with these things. You're his favorite person, his only person. Claude pointed out, he lives and breathes Dimitri. He sat beside him on the bed. Stop feeling like you're a burden. Stop. He pointed a finger at him. Maybe he does. But dealing with another person's emotional pain is taxing. And I don't want to drain Didu, he doesn't deserve that. And I don't want to drain you either. Dimitri shook his head. I can't help but feel like one. It may look like I have my life together at first glance, but that's far from the truth. I understand. I do. But stop keeping it to yourself. I'm nervous that something's gonna happen to you. I just want you to be okay. Now lay down. Worried what's going to happen to me? I'm fine, Claude. I am. He obviously wasn't. Dimitri didn't listen to Claude at first when he told him to lay down, but he eventually did, and he didn't seem happy about it. He sat up after 2 seconds. I just remembered. I have some documents to sort through that my uncle sent me. Stop. Do them after you rest. Claude pushed him back down. Please. Listen to me, because you know I'm right, he said. And stop saying you're fine. You just told me you're going crazy. I'm taking everything you're saying seriously. Dimitri stared at the ceiling, then covered his eyes with his arms and tilted his head to the side. This has been going on for 4 years, nothing I do makes it stop. Nothing. And I fear if this goes on for any longer, I'm going to end up hurting someone else. He paused. There's no cure for what I'm going through. I've accepted the suffering. I just have to find ways to cope. There you go. The first step is acceptance. You're already ahead of the game, Claude said, trying to lighten the situation. Cope, let's see. Well, for one, we can play more games of trash ketball. If you're ready to lose. He chuckled. What else, Oda, hanging around with Didu? Talking through your problems with him. You could ride a horse out into the woods with a friend, you could share a meal with me, he suggested. I don't know. Those are some ways to maybe help clear your mind. What do you think? Dmitri listened to all of Claude's suggestions, letting his arms slide back down to his sides. He wasn't in a laughing mood, but thinking about his trash-cat ball games with Claude and going horseback riding made him feel a little better. You know what? I think I just might take you up on that offer. Not the losing at trash-cat ball thing, but horseback riding. We should go on an expedition, not anything too adventurous, but maybe a trip through the plains. We could stop at the waterfront for a picnic, if that interests you. His voice sounded dull even though he was looking forward to it. Claude raised his eyebrows. Me? You want to go with me? He seemed a little bit surprised for some reason. I mean, yeah. I'd love to. He smiled. We should go soon. I mean, before our mission this month, he said with a small shrug. Oh, you're right. The mission, how could that have slipped my mind? I need to make necessary preparations for that before I can worry about going horseback riding with you. Dmitri sat up a little, propping himself up with his arm. It's both of our houses going together. That means we're going to need double the supplies, and on top of that I need to make sure that my house members are in proper shape before the deployment. No, you don't. Don't worry about that. I've already packed a bunch of supplies up in bags and laid them out in the armory to take before we leave. Also, I held a special training event with both of our houses after lunch yesterday. Claude smiled, warmly. I could tell you were overwhelmed. I just wanted to lighten the load a little bit. I also sharpened any dull blades. You did all of that. Dmitri let out a huge sigh of relief, then fell back into the pillow. Thank you, Claude. I appreciate you taking care of all that while I've been stressing over other matters. He closed his eyes, but he opened them shortly after. Now I need to find a way to repay you for your kindness. What can I do? Claude chuckled. Dmitri. You can pay me back by getting some shut-eye and taking a load off. Okay. He said. That would make me tremendously happy. I'll certainly try, Dmitri sighed, blowing his hair up slightly. People won't think it's strange that I'm in here? Sleeping. He turned his head to face Claude. Who's gonna know? Claude said, shaking his head. Just go to sleep, okay. There was a knock at the door. Well. I wasn't expecting that. He opened the door a tiny bit, and Byleth was standing there. Oh. Hey Teach. Come on in. He stepped aside to let her in. Dmitri? Are you all right? Byleth asked as she looked down at him. Dmitri quickly sat up. Oh. Professor. Hello. He immediately put on a pleasant face, hiding his stress. He sat on the edge of the bed instead. I am doing just fine. Definitely nothing out of the ordinary going on here, that's for sure. He cleared his throat. Anything we can help you with? Byleth frowned. You're lying to me. I can tell how stressed you've been lately. You can't fool me. She shook her head. Claude replied, I'm trying to have him get some rest, but he won't lay down. He's like a baby who won't nap. Who are you calling a baby? Dmitri frowned, not wanting to admit that he was behaving like one. He said, honest, I'm fine. I'll get to sleep eventually. He didn't want to admit to his professor that he was having major issues. Byleth smiled at him. We've all been worried about you. Countless students have come up to me to vent about their worries. 80% of them are about you, Dmitri. How could I be the subject of so many worries? There are things of more value that the others should be spending their time worrying about, Dmitri said. Well, they don't. They worry for you. As do I. And Claude as well, Byleth said. I came here to speak with Claude about our mission, but I see he has much more important matters to attend to. Claude replied, we leave in 2 days. We have time to talk. I'll come find you after. Dimitri's been relaxing for long enough. No, the mission is more important. Dmitri stood up. The lives of so many are at stake because of this mission. You better have a chat to discuss things. It could save lives. I better go so I'm not interrupting. Byleth turned back around. Dmitri? I am assigning you some last-minute homework. You are required to take a nap, have some tea, and relax. Due by tomorrow morning. Do I make myself clear? Claude smirked. But that isn't a real assignment. Dmitri seemed really confused by her orders, even though he shouldn't have been. Is this for a grade? 4 points? He asked. Yes. It will be graded. The professor nodded. The more you relax, the more points you will receive. All right, then. I guess I should get started on my work. If it's due tomorrow, Dmitri sighed, I guess you'll be able to tell if I've completed the assignment if I appear well rested by tomorrow's lesson. Byleth smiled and nodded. Very well. I will see you both tomorrow. She exited. There you go. Now you have to rest. Claude exclaimed. Dmitri said, I fear I might fail this assignment. If only there was a way for me to. He swayed a little bit, then stumbled forward, catching himself on the bedpost. He experienced a head rush, but didn't want to admit anything was wrong though it was clear something was. Whoa hey. Claude hurried forward, putting himself between Dmitri and the bedpost. He held onto his arms. Are you all right? Please just lay down, and stay laying down. He gently pushed Dmitri into a sitting position on the bed. He was frustrated that he wouldn't just stay down. Claude, I told you, I'm fine. Dmitri couldn't make it more obvious that he wasn't telling the truth. He laid down at the earliest opportunity he got, and then closed his eyes. He was at the point where his body was shutting down because it needed sleep so bad. Aside from the migraine. I'm feeling fine. Stop. Just stop. Stop trying to act tough. Everyone needs a break every once in a while. With our new mission coming up, we're gonna need you stronger than ever. So rest up, Claude said strictly, tucking him in under the covers. But before I go to bed, there was something I was going to ask to do. Dmitri trailed off, his voice getting more mumbly as he went on. I was going to ask him if he stopped talking. Claude sighed with relief. He blew out any candles that were lit in the room, and took a seat on his desk chair again, looking sadly at Dmitri. He really felt for his friend. Dmitri didn't realize how much he was making his friends worry, and on top of that, he didn't realize how badly he was hurting himself by not taking any time to rest. Later, there was a knock on Shezzy's door. Shezzy opened the door, slowly munching on a cookie. Hello? Who's there? She asked. Hubert was standing there. He didn't say anything, he just stared at her, an enigmatic look on his face. Shezzy looked behind her, as if she thought he was looking past her. Hi. She said, what ya doin' there, Hubert? She extended a cookie out towards him. You hungry? No. But my interest is piqued. Your case is a rather particular one. He narrowed his eyes. I think your condition is worth investigation. Perhaps we should have a chat sometime, if you are willing to let me pry. Oh, you mean my whole snickerdoodle situation? I mean, yeah, we can talk. Only if you promise not to go telling on me or kill me or something like that. She responded. Kill you? No. I only wish to observe. I bear no ill intent. This is for my personal interest, if you will, Hubert replied. Shezzy trailed off slightly, then shrugged, sure. Why not? I don't mind a few little observations. But I do have some stuff to take care of, so we'll talk later, okay Hubie, bye? Later. She closed the door. Check the description for the links to the author.